This is Internet Business Mastery, episode 70.
In a world where bosses control your life and thoughts of escape fill your mind, where inspiration seems dead and cynicism rules the masses, you have a desire to break free. You feel the need to take control. Now, there exists a place where the secrets of freedom and wealth are given to those who believe. InternetBusinessMastery.com. Free your mind.
Hello and welcome to Internet Business Mastery online at InternetBusinessMastery.com. I'm Sterling.
And I'm Jay.
And we're here to help you escape the 9-to-5 and live the lifestyle of your dreams by turning your life's passion into a profitable internet business, even if you're just getting started today. On this episode of Internet Business Mastery, starting an internet business while working full-time, an internet business success story with Mark Mason. And we'd like to remind you that if you'd like to get a jump start on creating your own profitable internet business using our proven system, claim your risk-free trial membership to the Internet Business Mastery Academy by going to freeaudiogift.com. So Jay, what's been going on lately?
Well, I got something actually pretty big on my mind right now. It's because of an email I got a couple days ago. You know, it's always nice to hear from our listeners. And this one was in particular chastising us, believe it or not.
Well, that doesn't happen often, does it?
This was in reference to a newsletter we sent out recently where we mentioned that we had hired a new web developer from the Philippines for, only $500 a month full time. And that meant two things. They could hire somebody at that kind of a rate as well from the Philippines. And so we linked to that. And number two, that we were looking for whatever input that they had about, anybody to respond to the newsletter and let us know what kind of improvements they might like to see on the sites, because, we want to use this full-time guy to just make our offerings better, to make it easier and more useful for people to use our sites.
Yeah, all the stuff that we never get around to.
Yeah. And we have no business doing anyway, so that's why we hire someone else to do it.
Exactly.
So here's the reply that I got to that newsletter. I've omitted the name. I don't have his. I mean, we exchanged a few emails and had a good discussion, and that's why I wanted to bring it here to the podcast and get your input on this as well. But I'm going to go ahead and read this email omitting his name. It says, so this is addressed to us, Sterling and Jay. It says, I'm surprised that you would boast about outsourcing to the Philippines at a time when unemployment in the U.S. is at a high. There are plenty of highly qualified tech people looking for work in the U.S. who can help you, people who can actually come to your office and meet you in person. I understand that businesses have to be competitive, and they are often driven to find the cheapest price, but at what cost? Fewer jobs in the U.S., the commodification of high-level intellectual jobs, which makes it difficult for U.S. companies to compete because we use local talent and have to charge more. Your email announcement describes hiring the person like you found a great online deal on a laptop. This is just as problematic, if not more, as hiring outside the U.S. Human beings are not commodities. I'm sorry you've gone this route. You've lost a devoted follower.
Wow.
So pretty strong words. Now, I can understand that everyone's got their different viewpoints. I don't know what all the background is that has brought him to his particular view on, the economy and outsourcing. And, certainly when it comes to economics, it's a very complicated issue. And we're all going to have our different views on the finer points of the economy and how it works. It's a very complex thing.
Well, it sounds like right off that he is actually being affected by this himself. He says, which makes it difficult for U.S. companies to compete because we use local talent and have to charge more. Is that right? Did he have something like that where he was actually?
Well, he mentioned it sounded like he has his own company, and I'm sure he has his own employees. Who knows if in the past he's been laid off because of outsourcing, or has had to, or struggling to make ends meet in his own business because the economy and how it's affecting things. Who knows? I mean, granted, it is a difficult time, and a lot of people have a lot of different emotions running, and there are definitely people struggling, not only in the U.S., but all over the world from various aspects and things going on in the economy. But, I wrote him back. I decided, this is an issue that I wanted to write back on and kind of outline my position because, it is something that is an important issue. I know I wanted to discuss it a little bit on the podcast here. Now, it's hard to do this without getting all political, and it's not like this is a political podcast by any means, but, from a very business standpoint, there's some good points that need to be made here. So here's a few of the things I, personally feel on this issue, and Sterling, you can tell me if you agree what your particular stance is. So there's two things. First of all, he's saying that we were treating a human being like a commodity. Second of all, the whole issue of by outsourcing, you're hurting the U.S. economy. So first, to speak to the commodity issue, a human being's a human being. By no means do we want to mistreat a human being or treat them in an unethical way.
Nor do we.
Yes.
For sure.
Nor do we. And humans, you're right, are not commodities. Certain skill sets, however, sometimes can end up being in a commodity type. It can end up in that category. Very simply. And that's something we all, as human beings have to keep up with, is making our skill sets so that they don't become commodities. It's true that to the one sense, a virtual assistant, we hire somebody, we hope he works out. We'd love to have a great relationship with him for a long time to come because it benefits him and us. But truth be told, if things don't go as planned, which has happened to us before, we gave him more than ample time to do the work. And we, with our first tech VA, and I even, instructed him on things that I thought needed to be done better, gave him a chance to fix it, and he couldn't. So we let him go because we knew we could replace him very quickly and easily. So in that sense, is the skill set a commodity? Well, we know we can go and find readily available the rest of that skill set. Now, that said, here's the truth of the matter when it comes to the human being and how we treat that person. This is the one that we just hired. It's a young man right out of college in the Philippines. We're paying him a salary that's at least equal, if not higher than what he would otherwise have made. He gets to set his own hours. He gets to work on things he finds challenging and interesting. We give him paid holidays. We pay him to learn new skills because we're wanting him to constantly learning new things for us as we're pushing the envelope. So his resume is getting better while we pay him to do that. We don't ask overtime of him. He works no more than 40 hours a week, and that's more than I can say for most U.S. employers, especially these days. If he needs time off for a family matter or due to something, this is the Philippines. Things happen. Power goes out, the typhoon hits, and we work with those issues. So, and not to mention that we also give these people raises and bonus more than once a year. So again, much more than can be said for most U.S. employers or, employers elsewhere in the world as well. So I would say that he's treated way better than I ever was treated as an employee. I was, worked to the bone and worked overtime in office and usually not compensated for that overtime. I was a salary employee. I didn't necessarily get time off, even though sometimes I would bust my butt for days on end. And, so obviously as anybody who's quote unquote, employing somebody, I want to make sure that they're treated, how I wish I had been treated when I was employee. So, that's what I would say to that first statement of how we view and or treat, a human being and certain skill sets.
I agree.
Second of all, then I guess is the unemployment issue. So the argument is that by advocating outsourcing to other places and by telling other people how they can do that themselves, that we're hurting the economy in the U.S. Well, first of all, there's a very important point to make here, and that is that in Internet Business Mastery, our definite major purpose that both Sterling and I have, and I think I can speak for him because we've talked about this a lot, is we are here to not only bring increased freedom and happiness to ourselves through our internet business, but also to others. And that is not limited to any particular country. We are here to help as many people who can listen to us across the whole world, to find increased freedom and ability to make an income for themselves through internet business. And we have almost as many listeners outside of the U.S. as we do inside of the U.S. In fact, we probably have more outside the U.S. than we do in the U.S. So that is simply to say that, by no means is what we teach or our mode of business or our philosophy in what we do within this business, based on anything U.S. centric or U.S. specific. This is a worldwide podcast. It's a worldwide audience. That aside, let's consider a couple different scenarios that I suppose we could have gone with here. Okay, there are some people who would hear this whole argument and say, well, the patriotic thing to do is to hire domestically, hire locally, and to help somebody out, in your own country or neighborhood or community or town or whatever. And, if that's something that somebody chooses to do in order to bring happiness to themselves and others, great, by all means do so. However, our budget would have allowed us to hire only a freelancer here in the United States for about 10 hours a month. So we could have provided somebody in the US 10 more hours a month of work, but we as a business would have only achieved a fraction